You're listening to the Travis Makes Money podcast presented by GoHighLevel.com. For a free 30-day trial of the best all-in-one digital marketing software tool on the planet, just go to GoHighLevel.com/Travis. What's going on, money makers? Welcome back to the Travis Makes Money podcast, where it's our mission to help you make more money. If you're new to the show, we release brand new conversations with unconventional money makers 7 days a week. So if you have not yet, please be sure to go to your podcast app of choice right now, hit that subscribe button so you never miss an opportunity to learn how to make more money from some of these incredible guests. Today on the show, we're going to be talking about dancing with my new friend, David Schafran. David is a serial entrepreneur, dancer, and multi-hyphenate passionate about empowering others. He co-founded his first company at 26, helping over 5 million people access eye care in 130 plus countries. After burning out doing that, he immersed himself in salsa dancing in Medellín, Colombia, a move that changed his life. Now he runs Somoloco, a 6-figure dance immersion company, blending experiential wellness, cultural deep dive, and dance education. Whether launching ventures in NYC or dancing in Medellin, David's mission is to empower others and create a more inclusive world. So talk about pursuing a passion and learning how to monetize it. David's literally built a 6-figure business off of dancing in Colombia after building a massive business and just not wanting to do it anymore. So I'm sure we'll get into some good stuff. David, thanks so much for joining me on the show.
Yeah, happy to be here, Travis.
So tell me how you made your first dollar ever, David, and then how you made your most recent dollar.
Wow, first dollar. I was probably a busboy. No, it wasn't even a busboy. It wasn't even that. It was before that. I was waking up at 5:30 in the morning and going to a local convenience store to open up sections of newspapers and put them together so they could sell it to their customers at 6 a.m.
Wow.
And that was first bucks. Getting ink all over my hands, and yeah, just in a back room in my hometown in New Jersey.
How old at the time?
I think I was 13 or
Okay.
14. Yeah.
Did your parents kind of like push you to work, or were you always like, how do I make extra money so I can do what I want to do?
No, I don't. Well, it's been a long time. I feel like work was always something that my dad valued, and it felt like something that I would strive to do. It felt like this is something that is meaningful, is something that makes me feel, kind of value. And that sometimes has a negative edge to it. But frankly, for me, I was like, no, this is a good thing. Like, I'm going to go work. I'm going to contribute. I'm going to make some money. It's going to feel empowering. Let me be in the world and actually do something.
Yeah.
Those were kind of motivations for me. But having an allowance and buying Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles back in the day was, oh, I can use stuff with money to buy things I want. Cool. I
Yeah.
mean, the bucks are kind of cool. I'll get the few extra bucks.
Yeah. So did you end up pursuing that through high school, college, post college?
No, I had a series of random jobs, as a teenager, just to make extra bucks and just get experiences of being in the world, right? Like again, I think there was inherent value for me in doing work and having experiences. But also, yeah, the extra money was just kind of fun to have to be able to do random things as a youngster. So that the first one was that. The next one I was about to say was a busboy job where, I mean, it's insane. I don't think it was legal, to be honest with you, because we were getting like 250 an hour, and
Yeah.
this wasn't 100 years ago. This is in the 90s. So we're getting 250 an hour, and I was like working with like dudes that were from Latin America and Asia, and we were splitting 15% of tips that were typically like $3 tips at like this local delicatessen in Jersey. I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't know
Yeah.
how these guys are making. I'm living with my parents. I don't know how these guys are living, man.
Yeah.
But it was a good experience and things of that sort. I mean, I can go on. There's just like several odd jobs,
Yeah.
summer jobs, driving vans, working retail. This is all like until I got to college, and in college I was a busboy at a sorority house, and that's how I made money, got free food. So yeah, I guess I was always working. I never even thought about it. I just like it was just something that felt natural to do.
Yeah. 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 What did you go to school for?
Oddly enough, I was a Spanish major, which I suppose has some connection to what I do now with dance,
Yeah.
but it had nothing to do with like what I thought I was doing with my career. I was just curious about learning a language, doing something practical with my education, not just like learning like random, I don't know, like random subjects that I didn't feel were practical for my life. Like I wanted to do things. And but despite that, I was actually a science and math guy in high school.
Okay.
Like I was curious about the world and how things worked. But I didn't want to be, a cog in the machine. I wanted to kind of follow my own inspiration. And for me, what that meant in college was just exploring things that felt interesting. And for me, like living in a different country, learning a language was like pretty interesting. So that's what I did. But it didn't, yeah, it was never like, I'm going to be a Spanish teacher. Like people are like, you're going to be a Spanish teacher? I'm like, I'm not going to be a Spanish teacher. Like that's not why I'm doing this. I'm just curious, man. Like I just
Right,
wanted to
right.
see where that goes. And it did lead to my career, but in a way that was unexpected
Totally.
because at some point I was like, it was a history class of Latin America, and we just learned like how were the Americas started by the Europeans coming in and being like, okay, let's make our own reality here, let's create cities and push away the nature, let's like there's other people here, whatever, we'll just throw them aside. And I was like, that doesn't feel right to me. Like we've created our society based on this like otherness. Like why can't we all be doing this thing together? Like I always felt part of something. So I wanted to do something about it, and I learned of this concept of social entrepreneurship, sustainable development, like these kind of buzzwords. But basically, this idea that you can use capitalism, you can use startups, you can use technology to help empower people. And I was like, that's really exciting. Like I want to go explore what that is, and that set me on the trajectory of being an entrepreneur with a real passion, a real drive behind it, to help people like be part of this oneness that I experienced as an individual. So I had a
Yeah.
very kind of like spiritual motivation of like why I do the work, why I want to be an entrepreneur that has always gave me the fire to do the thing and continue to do the thing.
So at 26, it's you founded your first company. Was this like truly your first venture that you started on your own? Were you kind of were just working odd jobs and side hustles up to that point, like in between college and 26? Were there like a couple of things that just like didn't go the way you wanted them to? Like what eventually led you to be like, this is a problem that needs solving and I can help solve it?
Yeah, it was the first real company for sure. I'd done some like side experiments before, but they didn't necessarily like captivate me. Like I will only do things that I'm captivated by. Otherwise, I'm just like, why?
Hmm.
Right? Like, just why do it? So what happened was I went to India on a fellowship through the Rockefeller Foundation to work with entrepreneurs that had some sort of innovation that was going to help the rural poor. And while I was out there, I got exposed to healthcare being executed on smartphones, and I was like, that's really freaking cool. This is in 2009, so smartphones were kind of new, and we're like, wow, you have this computing device in your pocket, and now you can do healthcare on it. Like that's pretty exciting. There's probably a lot you can do that's going to help a lot of people. And you know, in the spirit of like, okay, how do we help a lot of people, uplift all of us together, make healthcare, wellness more democratized for everybody, right? You don't need to necessarily go to an expert doctor and have to have the money and the equipment. Like you can do it on your phone. That's crazy. So I went to the Bay Area after that year in India and was just snooping around research labs and was just like, I want to go start a company in point of care diagnostics and telemedicine. This is in 2008, 2009. I just decided is what I wanted to do because I saw it. I saw this as like, this is going to change a lot of lives in an awesome way. And ultimately, I found a research project at MIT at the Media Lab that was a smartphone powered eye test. And I come from a family of optometrists, and I had done a little bit of work with the social enterprise called Vision Spring at the time, just very small internship, a couple of years before. So I had some experience in the space, and the inventors were Indian and Brazilian, and I lived and worked in both countries. I didn't talk about a Brazil escapade, but anyways, it's all part of me exploring this interest and just stacking up experiences and knowledge. So I was like, this makes so much sense. And I just reached out to the inventors, and we just started building a relationship. And that just kind of, through like doing things together, winning some awards, winning a pitch fest, like we ultimately started a company together
Hmm.
in 2000. Technically, I think it was 2011, but I started, working at the Media Lab in 2010.
Okay.
And it was all just like, just my raw passion for it, my vision for what this could be, and a great relationship that was forged with, both these inventors that kind of just made sense from like my like, external facing entrepreneur vibe
Yeah.
and their kind of technical expertise and prowess and an ability to make the tech.
Sure.
And that's how it started.
Yeah, that's huge, man. I love that. I love that story because speaks to the idea that you don't need to know everything and you don't need to have all the answers to get started solving a problem. And there's probably, if it's an action, if it's a big enough problem, there's probably somebody out there who's also thinking about how to solve that problem. And maybe you can just bring something else to the table for like you know what I'm saying, like listening to the story, it's kind of like, well, man, they had kind of already invented it, what they need David for. And it's like, well, sometimes people have a personality type and they have like the way that their brain operates is just super technical and they love building stuff. It's like, well, that person doesn't necessarily love selling the thing that they built. Like there's so many ideas that never make it off the ground that are really good ideas that are solid products. It's just that the founder doesn't have somebody who can come in and sell the story, right? That it's the famous Wozniak and Jobs conversation where it's like, man, well, you know, Wozniak's the one building all the tech. And it's like, well, yeah, but don't make any mistake thinking that he could have done it without Jobs. You know what I mean? Like there's my point is to say that like you don't have to be an inventor. You don't have to be an engineer to come up with some of these ideas or concepts. Like some stuff already exists that you can just go plug in your talent, your skill, your ability, and operate in that zone of genius. Let them operate in their zone of genius and create something really cool together, which you guys ended up doing. I mean, 5 million people in 130 countries is no small venture.
Yeah, man. No, I completely agree. I mean, it takes a village to do anything. And anytime any of us think that I, as an individual, need to do all of it myself, you're not going to do anything that big. Like you
Yeah,
do a
right.
small thing, but you're not going to do anything that big because there's no way I could do everything. I don't have the expertise, the time, the energy,
Yeah.
right? Like, and you know, anybody who's like deep in product and operations, those types of things, you know, they often have blinders on in their world, and somebody needs to be taking the big picture, you know, all together and being able to inspire and motivate to assemble a team, to get investors to come in, to do sales and marketing. It's critical for any of
Yeah.
these companies. So people, you know, that share, you know, a background like me or a skill set like mine, you know, there is a route to, you know, be part of something that's significant. In fact, trailblaze something that's significant because ultimately bringing the team together and making the team work well together is everything,
Yeah.
right? Because the people that are doing the work, you know, are great at their specific part, but who's going to bring them together? Who's going to bring to the table? Who's going to integrate it? Like there's a role for that. It's really important.
So let's get to the punchline here, David. Is eventually, I mean, you're building a massive business. Most people would look at that and be like, man, dream scenario. It obviously was not a dream scenario for you because you burnt out pretty hardcore and then bounced to a different country and started salsa dancing. So tell me about that. Tell me about that journey. Like how long were you in this game before you realized you're burning out? What were the steps you took to get out of it? How did you kind of break off and start this new thing?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think I had some immaturities that I needed to work through, is maybe like one way of saying it. But like saying it more personally, I think growing up, I didn't have a positive relationship with my emotions. In fact, I didn't know what my emotions were. I just kind of pushed them away. And I like held on to some painful stuff that happened when I was in high school. My brother had a, you know, mental illness that happened when he was 19, and there was just kind of a big shake up to the family. And I honestly like just held on to a lot of shit and didn't deal with it for over a decade. And it wasn't until a series of experiences from like 10-day Vipassana meditation to like be like, oh, I just realized I have emotions in my body. Okay. Oh, wow. That's amazing. Holy shit. Like now I could do stuff with that. Before
Yeah.
I just felt bad. I didn't know why. Right. And, and then, you know, being in Boston, Massachusetts, like God bless it. But for me, I was like still exploring some of this emotional, spiritual stuff that I didn't feel like I had outlets for. I didn't feel like I had outlets for me to express my joyous side, my flavorful side, my affectionate side, like a lot of creative stuff. I was more just like in a high stress startup tech, you know, in Cambridge, very like MIT culture. I just didn't feel like I had the opportunities and the context to kind of continue to grow personally and
Mm.
have outlets for that. Um, and I danced salsa once and was just like, oh my God, this is so joyous. Like I just had a friend who was like, hey, you want to come out? This is when I was in Boston in 2015. She's like, do you want to come out? This is after years of doing the company. And I was like, yeah, sure, I'll come. And when you have this like kernel of truth, like just like this light comes off, and you're just like, oh, whoa, I see this. Like I get this,
Yeah, like I
and I'm
can't
like,
deny this.
I can't deny it. This is just so clearly makes me feel amazing in a time where I've just kind of felt disconnected and alone, and and just not feeling good, just
Yeah.
not feeling good. Like I'm pursuing this company. It was my passion. It's everything I said I wanted, but like something else was really not working for me on a
Mm.
deeply personal level. And salsa just gave me this connection. So I was like, I'm gonna remember that. And then basically I turned 30, had a breakup, and ultimately the company, like I was like, it's time for me to go. We had changed the business model a little bit. We had kind of matured to the point where I felt like I like wasn't necessarily necessary, like as a founder, for it to continue. And I was like, I need to like change my life right now because I'm just not,
Mm.
this is not a way of living. Why am I doing this? Like I'm kind of like sacrificing myself for this idea of what I thought I wanted and who I was. And so I just said, screw it. I'm just going to go dance salsa, and started dancing salsa in Boston. And it felt good, but also was like, this isn't it. Like, this isn't the authentic stuff. This is not where I'm going to really learn the feeling, how to do it. I was like, I want to change my internal state right now. I want this thing. And I'm not going to get it here. And I had the opportunity at that point, just basically like leave Boston and just kind of do whatever, like a sabbatical type of thing. And going to Colombia was just one of the first stops. And I was like, I want to become fluent. I want to be embodied in this. And I was going to give myself a month to dance full time. And the long story short is, I after like 3 weeks, I found a great situation, and I basically just leaned in hard, and I ended up dancing full time for 5 months. And that time truly gave me my vibrancy back. Like it
Mm.
gave me my joy back. It gave me my flavor back. It allowed me to change who I was on the inside by doing this practice, because salsa can represent joy, flavor, and affection, and you can activate it in yourself and practice it and make it part of who you are by doing it. It's not an idea that you just think about, you literally do it. And that's the power of dance. It's also the power of Vipassana meditation and learning impermanence. It's the power of any embodied practice, which could be a ritual or a dance or incantations. Any one of these things basically help you experience an ideal or an emotion or a characteristic. So that was profound for me, like truly. And I was like, all right, well, I want to do more of that. And I also want to give back to people. And so that's where, the company came from, was like, I don't want to, I want to stay connected to this feeling, but also I want to share this to other people, because people from my background, I'm like a white guy from Jersey, right? Like, why is this guy dancing salsa? He also is like a tech founder. Like he was, like what? And I'm like, yeah, exactly. Like this is for everybody. It's like
Right.
we have these traditions and these practices that work, and we're like saying, oh well, let's keep on reinventing the wheel. Like, how do we feel good? It's like actually, there's research that shows that dance is more effective than SSRIs and talk therapy, right? Like the research has proven that it's actually the most effective physical activity for depression. It's just like we already know these things, and there's these practices that already are amazing from these traditional cultures that you can literally just do right now, and you don't need to be a Latino. You don't need to be like a crazy professional dancer, because the art is the feeling of it. And so you can literally just go and do it. And so like the company that I've started is basically giving people the experience that I had, that is 1 to 4 weeks, where you can really live a certain dance. It's also bachata, zouk, tango, hip hop in Medellin, now Barcelona too, for you to really live these values, and get this emotional experience per dance that you were missing in your life. And so people love it, and yeah, we've been able to do well, and we're growing.
That's awesome, man. I love the origin of the story is, and I love the idea of moving down to Colombia to make it work too. It the vibes down there are just so wildly different than they are in the States. When you go like when you go dancing or like go out in Colombia, it feels like the it feels like everybody's goal is to dance, not to impress friends, not to like get drunk like crazy, not to, you know what I mean? Like I know I was only there for a few days, so I can't speak to it how it's being there, like living there. But my impression of the culture was just very much like, man, these people are just Like they're coming out because they're here to have a good time and like just dance and get crazy. But not again, not they're not seeking status the way that we do in America. They're not like pursuing the goal of sleeping with somebody at the end of the night as ardently as like people in America do. You know what I mean? Like they're when you go down there, it feels it just it's much easier, I guess, what I'm saying, to like get immersed in that culture and really engage with that art, because you're in an environment that is much more conducive to figuring that piece out, rather than being in the States and like just being worried about what everybody else is thinking about you.
Well said. I think that's exactly right. And I would say this, I maybe I had this bias too before I went to Colombia that like, oh, Latinos are they're just happier than the rest of us. I don't know. It's just like innate to who they are. And that's just not true. Actually, when you're down there, you realize that joy is a commitment. It's an intention. It's something that they intentionally practice through things like salsa. See, salsa and any traditional art form is an expression of cultural values. So when I say salsa represents joy and flavor and affection, that also represents the values of a lot of Latin culture, Colombia being like a very much part of that. So people there practice the joy because they care about it, and they dance salsa because they want to be joyous. It's not by accident.
Right.
It's not just like, oh, just joyous and we just do this. Like, no, like people down there are like, no, I'm meant to be happy and
Right.
this is my space to be happy. And I think people who are really into dance in America as well, it's like they get that. Like this is a place, this is kind of a sacred space for me to kind of practice the values that I want to live by, because you're
Right.
literally embodying it. You're literally doing it in the most honest way with somebody right there with you. And you do that often enough, you're going to change your internal state. You're going to feel that authentically. It's not going to be this idea of yourself like, oh yeah, I'm a joyous person, but only like, once every 3 weeks when I kind of tap in, dip my toe into the salsa thing, and I'm just back to being like, I don't know, man, I'm thinking it was in my head. I'm like always anxious or thinking about the past or worried about things. I'm disembodied. Like when you do it often enough, you actually feel good often.
Yeah, 100%, man. And it solves another deeper rooted problem for a lot of people, which is loneliness. On my other show, Travis Makes Friends, I talk a lot about the loneliness epidemic and how to make better friendships and things like that. And this is one of those areas that I was surprised to see. Again, like what you're saying, there's a lot of research, a lot of data that supports that dancing solves a lot of these mental health issues, even physical health issues, that stem from loneliness. Because when you're involved in that type of a expression of emotion, it connects you to your community in a way that's irreplaceable. And there's also that, which is another huge reason why like all the blue zones with the people who live the longest, they don't all follow the same diet. Some of them have chain smoked since they were 17 and they're 104 now and they still do it. It's because they have a deep rooted sense of community and belonging, and like they're with their tribe. And some of these cultural art forms like dancing have helped to instill and deepen that sense of belonging and community.
100%. And I think we need it now more than ever. I mean, with technology, we all work on our computers. So easy to kind of do things independently. With AI, it's even easier. You could talk to a therapist who's like basically a chat GPT bot, right? Like you could do so much now independently with your tech and be disconnected with humans, not have the physical connection. You don't get the oxytocin chemicals. You don't get all the other things that are benefits from just being with a real person. And dance is really like a profound experience if you are feeling disconnected, if you are feeling lonely. And it's also part of being a human. Like
Yeah.
dance is always part of humanity. And for various reasons, which is probably its own podcast of like, where did dance go in the West? Like, why is it that we don't really do much of it as a culture,
Yeah.
um, to basically honor various parts of the human experience? Like, why is it that when I grew up, we're just grinding and
Mhm.
not really grinding well. I mean, if I could have grinded, I would have done it, but I kind of just tried and failed. So it's like I didn't even grind much, right? Like it's just it wasn't part of what I grew up with.
Yeah.
Why is that? Like, and how do we then tell the story of, hey, like actually dancing is like part of being human. Like it isn't just for a certain type of people. Because I also felt shame about it when I was younger. I was like, oh yeah, dancing's not for me. Like I'm a dude, right? I'm not
Yeah.
gonna
Yeah.
dance. Like I'm not gonna body in these ways. And wow, that was unhealthy. That was the stupidest thing ever. That really made me feel like a dumbass and shitty. And it's like, okay, well, now I don't care, obviously, because why would I care? It's just like it makes me feel good. But
Right.
I said shame. I had to get over it. And I think there's a lot of dudes that feel shame about, feeling the emotions and moving their bodies in these ways. And they'll say, oh, I have two left feet. It's not for me. It's like, no, you actually don't have two left feet. You actually do have a left and right foot. You walk every day, you move your body a lot. Like no one's saying you have to be on Dance with the Stars, bro. Like
Right.
it's
Right.
like you literally like we're just talking about feeling the music, feeling your body and connecting with another person. Like that's all we're talking about. Like
Right.
it's
Right.
literally not more than that.
Well, dude, thanks for being willing to do this, David. I've enjoyed the conversation. This is, we talk a lot about making money, and obviously, you're making money through dance, which is really cool. But also, it's always a good reminder to know to remind ourselves that we're all living a human experience, and with that comes a wide range of emotions. And especially in entrepreneurship and making money, the pursuit of these things, it does get you into that hustle culture, into that grind culture. And if you're not taking time to make sure that you're investing into your mental and emotional health along the way, then the road's going to be a much, much, much longer and more painful road ahead. So thank you for being willing to jump on here and share some information with everybody. Where can people go to get more from you?
Well, if you want to check out what we do, it's somoloco.com. It's SOMOLOCO.com. And on Instagram, we're Dance Somoloco. So come out, dance, immerse yourself. If this resonates with you, we'd love to have you.
Somoloco.com. Go check out some of the stuff that David's putting out. I appreciate you for coming on the show and sharing, David. Everybody else listening, remember, money only solves your money problems, but it's a little bit easier to solve the rest of your problems if you got some money in the bank. So let's solve that problem first here on the Travis Makes Money podcast. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Catch you next time. Peace out.